Good morning. Good morning, Your Worship. Good morning, Your Worship, councillors. Excuse me, we do have members of the public. We are being live streamed, so please, if you could use your clear your messages when needed. Thank you. I am going to make a...
Thank you, Madam Chair. Declare an interest in recommendation 5.
Good.
Fortunate that the press aren't here this morning, but result of front page attacks by our Taronga base has been reinforced. I just want to suggest that the Mayor, the CEO and the executive team, Rotorua is a progressive, growing and exciting place to work, live and play and invest in. And I leave that with you. I think the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and the executive team either need to meet with the...
It is a concern when you see things like that about something that you've raised, and I suspect that the CEO, the Mayor, will, confirmation of our minutes, the minutes of the Strategy, Policy and Finance Committee meeting held. Thank you, Carrie. I'm going to just make a slight amendment, put back, recommend the staff report for probably the next 20 minutes. Thank you, Your Worship. That the report disposal of land, Service Lane, Fenton Street.
And kia ora koutou, councillors and committee members. So look, just when a subdivision was carried out on this piece of land, a small strip was taken, essentially whether the service lane reservation can be revoked. From a council perspective, we've got...
Thank you. Councillors, do we have any questions?
I seem to recall a land disposal policy was approved. To confirm, in terms of the preparation of this recommendation, has the land disposal...
A title pre-subdivision. It was taken 10 years ago and reserved as that small...
Jean's question, what was the process that was undertaken? Was that through...
halfway on a property.
Totally agree. When you look at the actual piece of in 2017, where I'd say kia ora.
Thank you.
1 month after the first publication of the notice, I take it your notification is going to be in the daily...
So this is obviously only a recommendation from the committee through to council, so the minimum requirements around consultation, and it does require notice in the local paper.
We'll leave that detail to staff. Thank you.
Under the direction of the Auditor General, I'm not allowed to vote on such. 10 years ago, we were seeking to get a network of service lanes behind shop. Obviously, the service lane isn't servicing any other 77 and stay there until surplus to requirements.
The only way to get out of it again is to unlock it through the Reserves Act.
Down there when the sites are redeveloped.
Thank you.
Through the back of those properties was in fact nigh impossible short of removing that, and that was obviously happy for it to go to public consultation. I look forward to the resolution of that.
Thank you, Councillor.
Of service lanes for shops in this part of the CBD have departed.
Thank you for the discussion, councillors. I am going to put is declared surplus to requirement and disposed of to being moved and seconded. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, thank you, Carrie. Just so that we can allow our guest to catch his breath. Good morning, Sir Bob. Nice to have a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Tapsell, seconded by Councillor Gould. I'll put that motion.
Councillors and fellow board members. This item is a housekeeping item, unfortunately, so it has never been used and has previously had an exemption from... what we are asking, therefore, is to seek another exemption for another 3 years. The company is being retained, even though it is inactive, that it has the potential to be used in the...
I think we all were, can't remember actually.
All the councillors are effectively the directors of the council.
Use your words, activity taking place. That means if some activity happens on that account, will then...
At obviously the council's instruction, and so at this stage there is obviously the likelihood also therefore prepare an annual report.
Thank you. 2, that the committee recommends that council exempt under section 7 of the local government. Committee recommends to council that the exemption identified in point 2 of this recommendation reserve, and I think Portia's going to be presenting that this morning, and I know Portia will introduce them all.
Morena. I'm Bob Harvey, and I can only say it is a group for Rotorua and the lakefront. I think the lakefront almost intact, which is quite unusual in most towns and challenges and tribulations over the years. The beautiful lake, the sightline, and indeed some of those early plans which took the vision to the lake, muck around with it, to take great design, beautiful design if you like, a fantastic design that I think will work for not only that you can feel assured that there is a group of people, and I'd like to just acknowledge them, that have come together, responsibility that we have felt that is what you've asked us to do, and that's what we'll talk, so will Carl Johnson, the cultural designer. But I would like to, if you talk of what we are as New Zealanders and who we are, to see something here that you can be proud of. And investment, both local and international. So has come together. They're working really well. There's good debate. I nearly said the minefield, but I think it isn't one of those. It's
where we've got to in terms of some of that detail. So what I'd like to just show you is a couple of...
We are streaming live, and it's good for everyone to hear.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So Napier is a really good example of putting in about 5 million per annum down at the Marine Parade. Riverside City Walk and also their oceanfront, quite a significant investment for New Plymouth to put in, but it's really paid off for them. Good examples of similar sized cities to us with waterfronts and the work that they're doing. So yeah, a little investment has gone in investment. Some underground fuel tanks that are down there. In itself is fairly industrial looking in design, and it sits on really important. Just reminding of the lakefront's also a project that's listed in the spatial plan, one of those really important projects to be undertaken. We visited a couple of years ago. He made this recommendation around the lakefront and how important and match up against all those other cities that are streaming ahead of us. We have really important that we take this forward, not just for us, but for the region. So just an update around what's been happening over the last couple of months since the long-term, depending on everyone's skills and experience. You'll remember the provincial in the country to make sure that we're pitching our lakefront and Wellington waterfront in New Plymouth. We also have Carl Johnson hearing. We have Veros project managing and working on the feasibility of the meeting with our lakefront operators, city developers, with consideration for that match fund of nearly 20 million. So that's it from me. I'm going to...
Kia koutou. Te rawa waka, te rawa tangata, tēnā koutou, mō koutou tautoko o tēnei koutou. Within that, just explain that this is the first part of the development process. So this leads into a full, and it became very apparent that one of the greatest things was how this lakefront or waterfront conversation about balance, and there was a conversation about adjacencies, whether you specific or whether you looked at it in the context of the Fenton Agreement and the development of the town plan and make incredibly sophisticated. And the reason that we've taken that position, we believe that to fall into a constructed narrative that simply perpetuates, and with ISMIS taking very much a lead on that, and looking at And then within that, how did we think about those, ngā tapawai o Ngāti map, the old shoreline, we started to think about issues where balance was required, elements in the broader development story. For us, that became a real driver. How did we create an opportunity for development? And it's about reconnection. One of the things we mapped was the old were frequently moored. So starting to develop those narratives to think about how we started to address the physical manifestation of this position so that we honour that canoe and that we honour it in a way that talks about once again, and on the ocean, all of the incantations that are performed are about elements, and then start to unbundle those elements. And so the forms that you see, which are the pathways onto the boardwalk, take that notion, maybe the way we join to the land and water. So, for example, on a waka, when you lash the rauawa, the side strakes, or the drop-off of visitors, a place for gathering, whether it's those gathering to, is that, it's held up by the 8 ngā pūmanawa e waru mata, and you have te arawa waka. So te arawa waka, te arawa tangata becomes a central statement. Those opportunities that the village sees in the development, but also as a pivot point. It's about the value proposition that's intrinsic within te arawa, but nonetheless.
As Carl's explained, my job's to try and to the edge, the coastal edge, and in that giant scallop field with the boardwalk, 600 other things. I suppose even with the images that Portia puts up, I mean, I sort of that is such a special place. For me, I'm a visitor. That Boyles is a special place. This needs to reflect that. Out onto the end, we've got a little pointer. Yeah, comes out over the top here. There's actually, oops, crikey, wrong way. Sorry, guys. What happened there? The wrong button. Cool. This allows the boardwalk to go across both the headland itself, so making sure that headland's got great opportunity here in the relation to how we've actually pulled the car park so it can look out over the water. It's got a strong relationship to the Whakuwara, a Waka armour building, so this allows space and water activities all to be
and point onto that one there, thank you.
Sure.
And just repeat it, thank you.
Moves as the boardwalk going through here, 600 metres long, 5 metres wide, and then re-establishing the strength of this headland while relieving this headland so it just impinges on it, which allows this to get direct access through to this piece of water. A commercial building sitting in here, which allows us to free this all up to allow this connection through here, and a toilet. It's a combination of both harder spaces and grass spaces to our up.
Concepts that you see today, it's really important to remember that may change over the next few months, but we'll be keeping you on that journey and bringing back detailed design of stage 1, and that's the area outside of the new spa development which is of course subject to our Provincial Growth Fund application as well.
The way it flowed, that it was an international design, and it's also the images of down there, even on a good day, it wasn't looking what I'd call flash. People that visit Rotorua, as well as the locals, which I think are hugely important to you and to us, need something weeping like a canoe of a waka out in right. And also, we are mindful that Ohinemutu is one of, and I think that we now need to talk through those elements, through the arms of yourself as councillors, the custodians of good ideas.
Thank you, Sir Bob, and thank you to the steering group for the work that you've done so far.
And, we're all very aware of the many iterations that have happened in the past, and I think you're right. Since we're cleaning the lake, I'm glad to hear you say about stage 1, because I always worry a little bit, incorporate that into here, and how does that integration happen? So those view shafts of Nongataha, Tarawera and Makoia, and I'm so glad you've captured those elements. I'm much happier than a cobbled together set of, we'll put a bit of this, just the waterfront, and it certainly is tired. But we are seeing such a walk that's underwater that it would be underwhelming. So has that been...
To the place. They are the experts in that question, but on their behalf, they've set a height that we must, coming down from the northerly, which we understand is the one that causes the most grief. And also means of how we itself, and that's mainly because there's a very deep amount of base before they hit anything.